Nebraska farmers lend a helping hand ahead on Grow. Ranchers provide relief for Kansas producers devastated by wildfires. Plus, the legislature acts on property taxes. We'll hear from a lawmaker who's also a corn grower. And one of the top voices in the ethanol industry, we'll hear from the head of the Renewable Fuels Association. It's time to grow. A helping hand in a time of need. Nebraska producers help out those in Kansas. That's our top story. Officials estimate the Anderson Creek fire has ravaged nearly 600 square miles of land, destroying fences, residences, outbuildings, and livestock. The South Central Cattlemen Group and the Thayer County Feeders organizing the aid drive.
I put out a Facebook post that I wanted to help, and my neighbors offered trucking their trucks and their trailers. Neighbors brought hay over to our place, and we got this thing rolling, and here we are taking it down to them today.
We'll have more on that effort later in the program when we honor our Farm Family of the Month. The big story in politics, tax relief, as lawmakers clash over the details. Rural lawmakers defended the governor's plan. Debate was contentious at times. Senator Ernie Chambers said farmers and ranchers aren't in it to feed the world. He said they're in it for the money. The governor encouraged farmers and ranchers to let senators know how they feel about the proposals.
And it's going to be important that your senator hears from you to be able to make sure we get property tax relief this year.
Senator Dan Hughes, a farmer, objected to the sentiment. Farms are getting bigger and bigger. We caught up with another senator who farms, Senator Kurt Friesen, for more. Hauling corn gives Kurt Friesen a sense of accomplishment.
It's good mental therapy for me to come home and get a little work done.
It's a break from the state capitol where progress has been hard to come by. And this senator expects more filibusters as the days wind down.
And when you run those kind of long hours, there's a lot of tension builds, people get tired, and it'll be interesting to watch what happens.
Friesen's district is one of the top corn-producing regions anywhere. He says the biggest issue is property taxes, saying the check he personally writes has gone up an average of 18% a year for a decade.
You make that one of your top 3 input costs of raising a crop, and that's just not right.
Friesen says the compromise bill on taxes will target more relief to farmland. He agrees with the governor it's a good start, but says it's not enough.
To me, it doesn't quite address the issue yet. We still need to fundamentally change how we address K-12 education, and we've not done that.
To make his point, Senator Friesen tacked on an amendment during debate to give $4,500 in state money for every student in school, saying that's the big picture problem that still needs to be addressed. But it won't be addressed this year. However, Friesen and the governor say they're making positive strides. In another legislative issue, the right to farm will not be on the November ballot, but lawmakers say the issue is far from over. We just heard from Senator Friesen. He's a former member of the Corn Board and co-sponsored the Right to Farm Amendment. He says it's bigger than livestock issues like antibiotic use and gestation crates. He says Right to Farm would protect biotechnology, an area where he says his fellow lawmakers have spread misinformation.
Talk about Senator Chambers, he was mentioning that they inject pesticides into a corn plant, and that's not true. That is not GMO. And until we get some of these issues straightened out into the public's eye, we're going to have a difficult time. And the GMO issue it's important to us. I handle a lot less pesticides because I have access to those technologies that we're using now. And
Friesen says there were concerns about the wording, something that's critical for the proposal from Senator John Keane that would have amended the state constitution.
From the discussion on the floor, we've got a little work to do. And I think maybe approaching it next year on a long session will give us that opportunity. He'll have an opportunity to work on it over summer.
Coming together on ag land leases can be tough, especially in these difficult financial times. NTV's Melissa Newman has some tips from Nebraska Extension.
Rental rates may be dropping, but that's not stopping some ag producers from signing leases.
And a decline on the kinds of ground.
Nebraska Extension educators met with ag producers on Tuesday to help them navigate the process without getting burned.
So 85% of the landlords and tenants get along great, and then the other 15% are unhappy with how things are going.
Extension educator Alan Vanalik says communication and trust are key when it comes to starting a leasing arrangement.
So if we don't have good trust between landlord and tenant, then we don't have a very good lease. And so I even suggest that if you don't trust your tenant or if you don't trust your landlord, maybe that's not the lease to have.
Crop share leases and flexible cash leases are the two types of leases most commonly used by ag producers. Experts say flexible cash leases are growing in popularity as yields and crop prices become more volatile.
The real advantage behind this is it gives some financial protection to the tenant, to the producer, in the event that they set a cash rent and then things start to go south, if their yields start to come off or they expect lower commodity prices. For the landowner, the real advantage, financial advantage, is if prices are better than expected or the yield on the farm is better than expected, then they kind of get that bonus rent that they kind of thought they should have gotten in the first place.
But it's extremely important that the floor and ceiling prices are set in writing so there's no surprises down the road.
Everybody knows what's going on, everybody knows what the outcome is going to be, and it just works out overall better for everybody.
Thanks, Melissa. The latest government report shows plenty of field work underway. As we know, we've had a mix of beautiful warm days and snowy days. There's been quite a bit of fertilizer application going on, according to the USDA, and tillage too. Topsoil moisture supplies rate 79% adequate. Winter wheat rates mostly fair to good, and calving conditions rate good to excellent. You could say it's like eBay for water rights, but a new water exchange finds more sellers than buyers. The Central Platte Natural Resources District was trying to connect people who may have a few irrigated acres to give up with those looking to pick up a few acres. In the end, there were 3 transactions in the system. They think it could be a useful tool and show what people are willing to pay for water rights.
You know, I certainly wouldn't say that this has helped us find a value of water based on 2 or 3 transactions, because it hasn't, but it certainly has that potential if we see more people to participate in the future.
This close to the corn season, they knew participation would be light. They plan to try again in the fall when growers have more time to check out the system. USDA provides millions to help rural co-ops. USDA announced this week it will provide $5.8 million in competitive funding to start, improve, or expand cooperative businesses in rural areas. The grant program provides money for nonprofit co-ops. This is Farm Worker Appreciation Week, recognizing the people who help put food on our table. NTV's Carmen Montez has our story.
It's a first for Nebraska. Governor Ricketts signed 2 proclamations this month observing this week as Farm Worker Awareness Week and March 31st as Cesar Chavez Day.
A lot of people don't realize what farm workers do for the Nebraska economy.
From planting to detasseling to harvesting, migrant farm workers are one of the reasons we can enjoy the food we get at local grocery stores.
A lot of times they come thinking that they know when they're going to start detasseling, but depending on the weather, you know, they could be here a week or 2 before they get started working.
Anywhere between 500 to 700 workers arrive in the Tri-Cities come detasseling season, where Proteus steps in to help provide health and safety training.
During the summer, when migrant workers come and detassel corn, we do pesticide safety training, heat stress set training, tractor safety, and then training for kids if they happen to bring their kids with them.
Partnering with the Nebraska Latino American Commission, they hope to collect enough shirts to give to farm workers all across the good life.
The shirt drive is really, really important because when the workers are out in the fields, they're at risk for sun exposure and pesticide exposure. If they are not aware of, those dangers, they might not bring the appropriate clothing or have enough.
One of the items Jody says they aren't able to bring too much of when they travel from state to state.
That way, instead of just having 1 or 2 shirts that they have to let dry out and then wear again the next day, they have a little extra supply.
Farm Fun could earn kids scholarships. State Treasurer Don Stenberg announced the Nest on the Farm Fun Photo $1,000 drawing. Nebraska residents can submit farm or ranch-themed photos of kids 13 or younger. To be eligible to win, $6,000 college savings plan contributions. Stenberg says it encourages college savings and highlights Nebraska farm life. Later in the show, we honor the Nebraska farm family, reaching out to provide aid to those in Kansas. Up next, we're going to hear from one of the leading voices in the ethanol industry.